All right. Hello. We have gone live.
Hello.
Hey, Lucinda, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So you might find that there's a lot of changes to the lighting situation at the moment, owing to me working with natural light and it being a bit of a cloudy, sunny day. So if I look a bit ominous at any point, you'll know why. So thanks everyone for joining us for our second self-care session. We had some really lovely warm feedback from our last session, which was with Kate Bishop, a life and well-being coach. If you missed out on that, you can go back and watch it. It's up on our YouTube channel. And yeah, thank you for joining us again. If you are joining us again, we might be talking into the ether, who knows? So today's session will again consist of 3 sections. So we'll start with a chat with our guest who's coming on shortly. Then we'll be moving on to a demo of a self-massage and stretching sequence that will be focusing on an area chosen by our guest. And then we'll have time for some questions. So if you do have anything that you want to ask either ourselves, myself and Lucinda, or Elika, who is our guest, please feel free to pop those in the comments and we'll try to get around to them. If you're not able to tune in live, do feel free to drop us an email and we'll try and get back to anyone who has any questions there as well. So this week we're joined by Elika Ashoori, who is a British-Iranian actress. Elika graduated from Kent University in 2008 and she studied art, history and drama. She then went on to study acting at Rose Bruford. But since 2015, Elika has spent most of her time setting up a cake business, which is now a very successful Artisan Patisserie. So she has a stall in Greenwich Market, or at least she did prior to lockdown, and she'll take us through that trajectory when she comes on. She also caters for weddings, high-end luxury events. And on top of that, Elika still pursues acting, modeling. She sets up projects for sustainable, eco-friendly fashion and collaborates with small businesses to support buying locally and ecologically. So we'll be talking to Elika about all of that shortly. We'll also talk about how cooking and baking can have some therapeutic benefits, either whether you're doing it yourself or whether you're receiving home-baked goods from other people. We'd like to mention that this week will be a very special episode. Elika will be kindly talking to us about some of the personal struggles she and her family are going through as they try to free her father, Anoosheh, who has been wrongfully imprisoned in Iran. So we're very honoured that she'll be able to talk to us about that, and hopefully she'll be able to tell us how we can help, and that will be something that we can get involved in. So please do listen in on that and pitch in if you can. So you can see at the bottom, we've got our little PayPal link, which is there. If you can and want to make a donation, we would greatly appreciate it. It's split equally between Pummel and Knead, the guest this week, Elika, and the nominated charity of the week, which is chosen by the guest. So this week's charity chosen by Elika is HSI, which is the Humane Society International. And this is a leading force for animal protection. So there are campaigns to protect British wildlife, to stop the use and the sale of fur, to reduce animal suffering on farms, and to stop animals being used in scientific research and product testing. And this is a cause that will be very close to many people's hearts. We all, well, a lot of us have pets or have an affinity with animals, and the concept of any cruelty happening to animals is unbearable. So again, if you feel like you can donate, it'll be appreciated. But if you can't, go and check out the website and amplify it or support it in whatever way is possible for you. Okay, so before we bring Elika on for a chat, I'll have a quick chat with Lucinda, my lovely colleague. So Lucinda, how are you this week?
Yeah, no, I'm good actually. I was suffering a bit with the heat sort of the last few days when we had that massive heat wave, but yeah, I'm much more relaxed. It's now a little bit cooler.
Absolutely.
I'm not very good in the heat. I'm a little bit pale.
Tensions run high when it's hot, I think, especially when you're in lockdown.
I think our household was a very tense because
Yeah, and
our
there's
flat.
three of you. You've got a dog who doesn't like the heat much either, do you?
No, he's a black dog and he suffers. So he was
Oh.
panting and didn't know what to do with himself. And
how's the hair situation?
It's all right. I've given him a good shave. Got the clippers out, gave him a good shave, and he wasn't very impressed. But he's a bit cooler, so it's all good. It's all good.
Fantastic.
He is coping.
Oh, bless. And Lucinda, I suppose a lot of people are asking me at the moment about massage, when it'll be coming back, because of course we had in the UK, the government guidelines this week were that certain businesses will return on the 4th of July with some restrictions, but of course massage isn't included in that. So what are you telling people who are wondering when they can next have their much awaited massage, much needed massage?
Yeah, it's very tricky, isn't it? Because I think a lot of colleagues, including ourselves, sort of anticipated that we would be going back on the 4th with the hairdressers and with the reopening of those sort of salons. So it is difficult. I think we've got to just exercise a bit of patience. We're, closely following sort of the government guidelines. And unfortunately, a lot of people do say to us, oh, can't you just do a treatment at home or something if your establishment, for instance, my gym where I normally work is closed at the moment, can't you do a few treatments at home? But unfortunately, we're not covered by our insurance. So it's impossible for us because obviously we have to have certain liability insurance and which protects the client and ourselves from anything that would go wrong. So, it's for both of our sakes, whether it's COVID related or not, we can't really treat when we're not covered. So I think we're just going to have to keep on doing these live streams, see what happens in the next few weeks. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to do some treatments, even if they are just sort of from home or not as many as we can normally do. Because as well, there'll be lots of, when we do eventually come back, there'll be probably quite a few things we're going to have to adhere to, like wearing the PPE, having big gaps between appointments and things like that, just to try and keep people safe. So yeah, watch this space, everyone. We're we're working with our union, trying to get back so people can have a treatment, but
not safety first.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I think when we do start back, there'll be a lot of people with a lot of built up tension. So people form an orderly queue.
Messaging me saying they're dying for a treatment. They just can't wait to have a treatment. And we're dying to treat you guys as well, because for us it's our passion. We love to do it. We as sports therapists, it's something that we really enjoy. So yeah, but hopefully the self-massage demonstrations that we show you in a little while will help to alleviate some of those aches and pains.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have our 12 episodes working from home massage series as well. So if you do want to go and check that out, there's sort of something for almost every part of the body that you might want to have a look at if you're suffering with tension or stress or muscle aches and pains. Have a look, and that might kind of keep you going until you can have your actual proper full body massage again, hopefully soon.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. So Elika, we're going to bring you in now. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here she comes. I should have counted backwards. That's how you do it. I'm not a very professional at this.
That's all right.
At least I gave you warning.
Hi, cool. And I am going to, I will disappear into the background for a little while you guys have a chat.
We'll see you in a while, Lucinda. Hello, Elika. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on this changeable, sunny, rainy Wednesday afternoon.
We're going to have very different lights throughout our podcast.
We will. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Dramatic.
It's what we do.
Exactly. Yeah. So, Elika, how has lockdown been for you?
Contrary to most people, I think lockdown's been a very therapeutic cleansing experience for me. I mean, if you take the horrible dark side of things, out of the equation, for me, I think it was a much needed break from, my daily just grind, and because of the sheer amount of work that I have every day, and just the workload that market, acting, modeling, everything was like bringing to my life. I really didn't know how to put the brakes on and say enough is enough, and just like work creates work. So I had gone to a point where, I was having 3 months of work with no days off. And yeah, when the lockdown came, I remember the first day that I woke up after the lockdown, I was like, I cannot believe that I have nothing to do. It was such a weird feeling for me.
You don't have to set an alarm. You don't have to go anywhere.
It was kind of like a feeling you get where you're kind of guilty after like your first day of summer after school, where you think, oh God, I have nothing to do.
Yeah.
This is weird. And it actually made me really tap into my creative side. And, because, I do work in a creative industry. All the industries I work in are quite creative. But as you know yourself as an actress, it can become quite tedious. At times when you repeat the same things day in and day out, and it's mostly labor intensive, and it can block your creativity to some extent. People might look at it and think it's very glamorous, but after a while you know that you've been doing the same thing day in day out, and it sucks the life out of you. So the lockdown has actually given me a chance to explore my creativity, is the things that I want to do, and not be completely at the mercy of work and customers, and just really explore the things I've never had time to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think more people will, I suppose, once they got over the initial shock of lockdown, more people started to embrace their creative side. For some people, maybe for the first time ever. And it's, I suppose, not that you want to think about lockdown as having silver linings, because of course, there's people who have sadly passed away, or people who've had severe hardship during lockdown. But as humans, we do have to try and always find a bright side where we can. And if the bright side that came out of it is that, people were able to have a little bit more time with books or music or art or whatever it is that is your outlet, maybe discovering something that you will be able to carry with you after your lockdown, that's surely a good thing. So you kind of, try and look at the positive sides where you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And, because you're not going out, you're not spending money going out, transport, meeting friends, you have to make the best of this situation. For the first few days, I was kind of just resting and hibernating. But when you come to think of things, you think, okay, this is the situation now. It's out of my control. And what can I do with what's currently provided to me by life? And I did a lot of DIY around the house, which I think most people did, which is that you go around your house all day looking and thinking, oh, I wish this shelf was here, and I wish that was there, and this was removed. And so I thought, why not? I YouTube it and I do it, because you don't feel guilty about wasting your time on things that usually you don't have time for.
Exactly.
And I started learning the language, which everybody said you have to do. And my other language, Farsi, is not a very useful language. So when I say that I'm bilingual, it doesn't really mean that I know 2 languages that can get me far in life. So I've always wanted to learn French, and I've actually used these months of lockdown, and I've actually dedicated about 3 hours a day to learning French.
Oh wow! Wow, well done, fair play.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
I looked at a drop down of my phone and how I use my time, and I realized I do spend a lot of time on social media. And I thought, if I even have that, and instead of 3 hours on social media, I spent 3 hours on something that you take something from. It's really rewarding, because you finish, you at the end of the day you look at your day and you think, I couldn't work, I couldn't do this and that, but what have I done with the time that was given to me?
Absolutely. And
yeah.
Elika, I know you said obviously you haven't been able to work. How has lockdown impacted you? Because I know that you are self-employed and you're a small scale freelancer, and you work in the market and you provide artisan baked goods to people. So what has the impact been on you in that respect?
Well, at the beginning it was difficult, because obviously the springtime for me is wedding season, and I cater for a lot of weddings, cakes, macarons. And from end of March, I think, I started getting emails that everything's been postponed to the year after. And obviously that's a big chunk of my business that's kind of being delayed. And the market obviously shut down. And for the first few weeks, I actually couldn't get hold of ingredients, because, as you know,
you couldn't get flour or eggs for love nor money.
Exactly, and that's what my business is based on. And a lot of stores, even wholesale stores, limited their products to 1 or 2 items per person, and I'm the type of person who would go and buy 3 kilos of this and 10 kilos of that, so people would look at me funny if I was doing that.
Greedy girl.
Exactly. And it was really challenging, but luckily I had some money saved, so I could kind of go on with that a bit. My partner had some money saved, so we were okay for a bit. But then I actually used that time to make cakes or make desserts that I don't normally get to do. And actually, it was a really good opportunity for me to remodel my business, because when you get order after order, a lot of them don't allow you to pursue your own style. You can't really put your stamp on things, where people show you something from Pinterest or some picture that they've seen at someone's party. They don't really it doesn't really allow you to explore what you want your look to be. And this actually allowed me to have a platform where I could just try things out, get polystyrene cake dummies and just try out different things with my cakes and things that I want to do, so that by the end of this, I could have a portfolio to show people that my work is this, and this is the type of thing that I will provide. And if you like it, then we are the right match as client and myself.
Yeah,
and
fantastic.
I think that was really important for me, because one of my main aims as a cake designer, macaron artist, is to convey the picture that my work is art. I get a lot of problems with people who want me to make a cake for them for very little money, because supermarkets and other places do so. And I think every artist needs a portfolio, and every artist also needs to make a living. So when you have to do the things, in terms of acting, you do lots of adverts, you do lots of things that you don't want to do, because you have to make the money. And you really want to have that little time, like a little opportunity where you can do the things you like.
Yeah. So, one for the pocket and one for the soul.
Exactly. And it's a really fine line to that balance, to get to that balance where you're doing things you like, and actually making money from it. So this was a good opportunity for me to explore and see what I like, because sometimes you don't even get to think what you like or what you're happy making. And there's only so many Peppa Pig cakes and petrol cakes you can make before you have enough.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's been good.
It's funny you say that. I wonder if coming out of this, if people will be more interested in having homemade bespoke goods rather than just what's available from a supermarket, because over obviously the past 3 months we've kind of been restricted in terms of what we can access, and it would be nice to think that coming out of lockdown there might be a resurge in interest in artisan goods, whether that's baked goods or art or clothing. Likewise, I know that you work quite a lot with creating awareness of local support and sustainable, eco-friendly clothing as well. And that's something that is quite important to you, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if there's something that lockdown has shown us is that we don't need to rely on supermarkets. We don't need to rely on big chains to provide food, as you've seen, you know, with the banana breads and homemade bread
sourdough.
pasta. Yeah, and you know, people started to get creative, and even if they didn't know before that they had it in them, you know, now they do. And you know, not only that is that they find that it's so rewarding to make something by yourself that you would previously have bought and paid a lot more for it, and the taste that you compromise the taste because, you know, something that's homemade, and if you master it, it's so superior to what you buy in a supermarket. And not only that, I think the fact that people you know, appreciate the work that goes into making things, because if no one's ever made cake before, I actually had a few people approach me and said, actually, now I understand why you get so offended by people questioning your prices, because making a tiniest, simplest cake could at least cost you £20 in ingredients and equipment, and not to take the time or the effort or the skill that goes in it. So I think the lockdown has provided people, I think, hopefully, with the perspective that, you know, it's not just something you buy. It's not a product. It's skill set. It's years of practice and acquiring those skills that you're paying for.
Absolutely. Yeah, so important. And Lilika, I know you say that obviously baking takes a lot of time, and I'm by no means a domestic goddess. Would you have any tips for someone who's very nervous about approaching baking, someone who thinks, oh, I just can't do it? I mean, where would you start? What would be a sort of a go-to thing for someone to start out with?
I mean, anything that you fancy. Before I started making my macarons, I was so afraid to make them because they are notoriously difficult to make. And I think the key is to not be afraid of making mistakes, because a lot of us, you know, for the first time that we do something and it doesn't go right, we get really disheartened and we kind of give up.
Yeah.
But I think there is fun in making mistakes because, you know, it's a learning curve. I don't see it as mistakes. I see it as opportunities that teaches you that next time you'll eliminate those mistakes and you try something new. And in the process, maybe you invent something or you come up with something. And, you know, most great things happen by accident.
Right.
So I think if you want to start, I mean, if you like cakes, you know, YouTube is a sea of opportunity. I never went to a course for my stuff. I never really did courses to make cake or decorate things. You know, I studied acting and drama and history. So it was just a hobby that I thought maybe if I cultivated and like work on it, it could be something. And it was literally just through YouTube, watching videos, reading books that you start to play around. And when you kind of master those basic techniques, then you get more confident, like anything, like learning a language, or even your job, you know, I'm sure you were nervous giving your first massages.
Oh my God, and it was terrible. I'm sure whoever my first guinea pig was probably came out thinking, what was that?
And, you know, you might be proud of it at the time, you know, because that's the level that you are. And then, you know, you get better, and then you look at your previous works and you think, oh, that was awful. I mean, when I look at my first macarons, I think, oh my God, did I actually sell those?
Yeah,
I think just don't be afraid. If you like cakes, YouTube how to make cakes, how to make a basic cake, and just go for it. It's not difficult. And, you know, if it goes wrong, then you just have the batter.
That's true. It's not a disaster.
If you like chocolate, buy a book on making chocolate on Amazon. You know, you can buy used books for like 10 pence, and you know, you just do it. It's fun, like anything.
Yeah, no, that's so important to remember. I mean, I suppose failure isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's only through failure and mistakes that we can learn. And you know, if all you learn is that actually you don't have the patience to make a cake, then
Then you don't do it.
Elika's here. Go to Lilika's treats instead. Which may well be my course of action, but we'll see.
I think that's me after the lockdown for a massage.
Yeah. Oh, well, you
I
told me you've been having some interesting bespoke massages at home.
Yes, because my partner is famously awful for giving massages. And he gets tired after, I think, without exaggeration, 20 seconds. So he would actually, what we discovered that would put him past that 20-second threshold is if we get a pestle and mortar and use that on my back with a bit of
That's original.
I know. And that's what we kind of like extended it to maybe 2 minutes.
Oh, fantastic.
But yeah, I think I would definitely need to visit you after lockdown for a real massage. I'll bring cake.
Do, please. We'll do a swap. That'll be fantastic. Look forward to it. Fantastic. And speaking of going to visit people or see people, we've not been able to do that for a long time. And I know that that's something that is quite difficult, and a lot of people struggle with not having that connection with people, and particularly with families. You know, a lot of us have not been able to see our family and become very aware of how important it is to, you know, Zoom is fine, but actually being able to see people or give people a hug is a huge thing. And that brings me on to the next thing that we wanted to talk about. And you've kindly agreed to speak about your father, Anoosheh. So do you want to just kind of take us through the situation that your father and your family have found themselves in?
Sure. I mean, my dad went back for a really routine visit to Iran, which we normally did, all of us as a family. You know, I went back. My mother went back because we have grandparents there, and he went to visit his mother, who was having a knee surgery, and she needed someone to take care of her for a few weeks. So my dad went there, and in the last week that he was there, he went out shopping one day, and we never heard from him that day. And we found later on that a bunch of guys went to him in a van and asked if he was Elika Ashoori, and he said yes. And they actually put a bag over his head and huddled him into a van. And then they took him to Tehran's most notoriously awful prison, which is Evin. And they told him that he was being charged with spying for Israel, which was, I mean, we found out all of this 4 months later. We had no idea what was going on. And we only knew that he was taken because when my grandmother went home, he found a note that my dad had written saying, "I'm going to a friend's house and I won't be back tonight," which is extremely strange because my dad is the type of person who would tell you where he's every minute of the day. He's very, he's very connected, and he never likes to know. He likes to know where we are all the time because he worries. And my mom thought something might be up, but not in a million years would we thought that could have happened. And the next day, he was allowed to call my nan and tell her that he was arrested for some charges and that he was cooperating, that he would be out soon. And that was the last we heard from him for another few weeks. And we all kind of felt like, do we go back? Do we wait? What's happening? Why the hell has this happened? We all thought, we started to question ourselves. I thought, did I do something in my acting field that was political maybe? But I was going back and looking at all my acting experiences and thinking maybe that's why he's been arrested. And my mom was questioning her work because she's a translator. And, we all had, we were all confused. And after a few weeks, he rang again. He rang my grandmother again and said, there are a few men that are going to come to the house because my dad is retired now. So all of his files, all of his business-related things are at my grandmother's house. He said, if they come, give them anything that they need. so that they see that I'm innocent and there's a misunderstanding, and hopefully this will be over soon. And this is August 2017 that I'm talking about. And the men came, took everything, and we didn't hear from him for another 4 months, where we found out that he was being kept in solitary confinement. And after those 4 months, he was transferred to the political prisoners ward in Evin, and they told him that he was going to be charged with spying. But to this day, they haven't found any proof, any evidence, anything that he was spying, and actually charged him after a year of him being there, because he kept being rejected access to lawyers, access to consulate, access to anything really. And when they actually finally took him to court, which I use the term court very loosely, it's just a chamber with a judge and his interrogator, they told him that because there is assumptions, or there's potential for him to be a spy, that they're going to charge him to 10 years in jail, because he could potentially become a spy, and that if we were to go to Iran, we would be arrested, because as they use the term sleeper cells, that we are that. And that's how they just imprisoned him. And later we found that the whole thing, that Iran has a very, very long history of hostage taking as a form of business. And they have done for, a long time, for 40 years since the Islamic Revolution. That's, the first act of the Islamic Revolution was taking hostages in the American embassy. And as we've seen in the film Argo, so yeah, it's been going on for a while, and they keep prisoners because there's something they need from the country of their residence, as Iran doesn't accept dual nationality. So they found a very convenient loophole where they arrest dual nationals that they target and think they would fit the criteria that they're looking for, and would ask the country of their other residence, so UK in our case, for the demands that they need for it. And in my dad's case, and in Mrs. Radcliffe's case, who is I think she's in a very similar case to my dad, they need, there's a £400 million debt that the UK owes Iran. And the money was given to the UK pre-revolution, so over 40 years ago. And Iran wants this money back, but obviously they're not going through diplomatic routes, obviously, to get this money.
Heaven forbid.
Yeah, and the UK, in response, is refusing to accept that these two are linked. So we are caught in a catch-22 of Iran asking or making these demands, and the UK really not cooperating. So we are stuck between two very stubborn governments as pawns, basically, as chess. And it's not just me, it's just not my family, it's not my dad. There are about 12 British dual nationals that are currently in Evin, and in total I think around 60 dual nationals from all over the world that are there, and negotiations are being made. Like the US has managed to free 2 of their hostages by doing prison swap. But there isn't any international coalition. No one internationally is forming an alliance to speak about this. There's no voice internationally to say this is wrong, and there needs to be a law or a bill that needs to be passed to stop or prevent this from happening. They barely even recognize it. So
wow.
that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more to it that you could talk about. But yeah, I mean, and if people want to help in any way, I know that your family have a petition. Can people sign, or how can people amplify the cause or help?
Yeah, I mean, if you Google my dad's name, Elika Ashoori, it will straight away, the first search that comes up is our petition to free him. And I think it's had over 50,000 signatures so far.
Oh, fantastic.
And, yeah, and we're trying to raise that by obviously going public, talking about it. Because for the first year, we didn't go public because we were scared that it would affect his sentencing, and it would affect his conditions there. And then we talked to the Foreign Office, and they advised us to stay silent.
Right.
But because they thought that they could solve things diplomatically and behind the scenes. But after, you know, a year of waiting around, we realized that no progress was being made. And actually, Iran was first to publicize my dad's case, because obviously, what's the point of taking a hostage if they're unknown? So I think they're tired of us waiting. Like, they tired of waiting for us to go public. So they publicized it. So we had to take control of the narrative and uh, do our own publicity. So now we're kind of at a. Unfortunately, we got hit by Brexit, elections, coronavirus. So
yeah, it's not been a great year.
No, I mean, it's
2020 can just, can we just press rewind maybe?
Exactly, or forward.
Or forward, yeah, either.
Yeah. And yeah, so hopefully now that things have settled a little bit, we have managed to get the front seat of our, media activities, and hopefully push this case a bit forward and get people to sign, so that we could hopefully put enough pressure on the British government to take action, because if we don't, they are refusing to. They're not acknowledging us. They didn't even actually, when we first went there, one of the first things that they said in regards to helping my dad and giving him diplomatic immunity, because then he would get access to, a lot more than he is now. They said that we had to determine his Britishness.
All right.
Which we didn't even know. We found it really offensive, because we've been naturalized and we're British. My parents grew up and studied here and lived here. We studied here, we work here, we pay taxes. So we've already gone through a process with the Home Office to qualify for a British passport. But the Foreign Office now says that they don't have access to those documents because they don't exist anymore. And now we need to prove again how British we are in order for them to help us any further.
Wow. Well, if there's one thing we've learned of recent times, is that the British Home Office is less than competent unless it suits it. So
yeah, and the British government as a whole.
I don't think anyone will argue.
No, I hope not.
Well, Elika, thank you so much for talking about that. And anyone who is tuning into this, whether you're tuning in live or you tune in later, please do Google. You can see at the bottom of the screen, we've got his name, Anoosheh Ashoori, and you can sign the petition and amplify the case and put a little bit more pressure on the government, and hopefully sooner rather than later, Elika's family have their dad home again with them. Thank you so much, Elika, for talking about that. Yeah, fingers crossed. And Elika, you just seem to have a million things going on. Another thing that is very close to your heart, and it's the charity that we're donating to this week, is HSI. Can you tell us about how you became familiar with HSI and what it means to you?
Well, I became familiar with them when I had a pop-up shop in Shoreditch, and their offices were on my walk path every morning, and their adverts and stuff, and obviously, as our Instagram listens to all we say, their adverts started to pop up on my Instagram, and I got really curious, and I read about them, and the things that they support were really close to my heart. I'm a really massive animal lover, and what they do is that they one of the main things they do that caught my attention was that they go to South Korea, and in South Korea there's a really big dog farming scene where they don't breed dogs, so to speak. They steal people's pets and take them to these animal farms where they then breed them, crossbreed them for meat.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and there are many farmers, and it's not a particularly legal process either, but it's a very black market behind the scene activity that's happening. And what Humane Society International does is they go there because obviously these farmers, I mean, as horrible as this is, the people's livelihood depend on it, and there's no way of shutting these farms down without compensation for the farmers to go and start farming in other fields. So what they do is they go and negotiate with the farmers, and they negotiate the release of these dogs in exchange for the other avenues. And I found that very admirable. And I find the other efforts very admirable. Like they tirelessly try to put a ban on the Yulin Dog Festival in China, which is a really barbaric tradition where they torch dogs, in markets and sell the meat and kill, skin them alive. It's just horrible. And they do a lot in terms of that, and they also do a lot in terms of any animal cruelty. They are extremely active in going to laboratories where they have animal testing, and they free those dogs and they shut those labs down.
Wow.
And they go to places where animals are used for their skin, for their fur, and they shut those places down. And what I like about them is that they are a very small group of people who run this charity in the UK, and I know them personally. They actually I hadn't met them the first time that I did a fundraising for them. I just spoke to them via email and phone. But one day when I was at my stall, one of the ladies who works there actually came to me and introduced herself. And
wow.
They came to me and invited me to their offices. So I actually went there and had drinks with them in their offices, tea and coffee, and we have actually built a relationship that's not strictly through email. I actually know them, and I know personally that what they do is admirable and honest, and the money that we donate to these charities actually goes to a good cause. I mean, to date, I think they've closed down close to 40 dog farms in South Korea.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah. So, they really help rehome these dogs and these animals that they get from labs and farms. And so, they're very admirable group of people.
Fantastic. I think that's something that's really important, because often when you give to a charity, it's kind of faceless, and you want to help, but you also want to make sure that what you're giving is going to the right place. So it's really nice that you've actually been able to, meet with them and see what they do. It's fantastic. Lovely. So Elika, we'll just come on to the last part of this section. And as you said at the beginning, you have some issues with having good massages at home. So you identified for us that something that crops up a lot with baking and with cooking, and also with setting up a market stall, is upper back pain, shoulders and neck. So we're going to have a look at that area today, and hopefully that will help you to maybe teach Ari a few lessons about how one has a massage.
For him 1,000 times.
Fantastic. So I am going to bring Lucinda back on, and we'll go through a quick demo of some self-massage techniques and stretches for those areas that you've identified. If anyone has any questions for Elika, either about anything that she's spoken about, there are a multitude of things that you could choose from. So if you have any questions about anything Elika's mentioned, or likewise about anything that we're showing in our demonstration, please feel free to drop us a message, and we'll try and get back to anyone who has anything to say. Hopefully someone's got something. There's always an awkward silence when it comes to a Q&A. Luckily this is online, so we don't have to, no one has to actually put their hand up. But so Elika, I'll drop you out, and then we'll bring you back in at the end for the Q&A session. Okay, thank you so much. Hello, Lucinda.
Hello, wow, that was a very interesting chat with Elika. Thank you so much, Elika. That was brilliant. Yeah, wow, lots of interesting topics there. So I hope everyone enjoyed that. I certainly did. Yeah, really, really insightful. Okay, so as Claire mentioned, we're going to do a little bit of self-care now in the form of some stretches and self-massage for the neck and the shoulders, which can be a really tense area for a lot of people, especially if you're working at a desk and you're hunched over, or like Elika, you're doing baking and you've got that position a lot of the time. So I'm just actually going to mute you, Claire. So I'll mute Claire, but Claire's going to, sorry to mute you. Claire's going to demonstrate alongside me, and obviously, again, if there's any questions at the end, just pop it in the feed. But the first thing we're going to do before we do anything is we're just going to take some really nice deep breaths in and out through the nose. And if you can, I want you to try and take those breaths from the diaphragm. Now, the diaphragm, I'll just do that for you, is just below the ribs. So it's kind of just above the stomach and just below the ribs. And you want to imagine that you're sort of inflating and deflating a balloon. So you're just opening up that space here. Rather than taking shallow breaths from this top area here, you're just taking long, slow breaths from the diaphragm. And this is really good to just stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, the parasympathetic nervous system is something that stimulates our relaxation response. So breathing is so key in that respect. We just want to bring everything down, slow it all down, and breathing is a great way to do this. Okay, so I hope you've all taken a nice few deep breaths in and out. So we're going to start with our first stretch. So this is a lateral neck stretch, and it stretches the side of the neck. So what I want you to do is tip your left ear to your left shoulder, like so. And just remember not to bring this shoulder up. Keep this shoulder nice and relaxed while you're doing it. And if you want to increase this stretch, if you're sitting down, you can hold on to the chair and use a bit of traction. Use the chair as a way to kind of put a bit of intensity through that neck area. And you can also increase this stretch further by using the other arm, by placing the hand on top of the head and just increasing that stretch even more. So you're bringing the head around. Now try not to crank the neck. Try to almost use just the weight of the hand to bring the neck further into that stretch. You want to just do everything in a nice, easy fashion, no sort of sudden jolting. Okay, so we'll just take it now. If you take your head back to neutral, so slowly just bring your head back to neutral. We'll just take it to the other side. So again, we'll just tip now the right ear to the right shoulder. And again, if you're holding onto a chair, you can just use your arm to increase that stretch and bring your hand over to just intensify that stretch. Fantastic. And these stretches can be held for about 20 to 30 seconds. And also remember to breathe. We often completely forget to breathe on the stretching. We're concentrating so much on what we're doing that we forget to breathe. So just nice deep breaths in and out. Okay, perfect. So once you've done that, just bring your head back to neutral. And we're now going to do what's called the sternocleidomastoid stretch. So I want you to bring your left hand and put it under your collarbone. So you're just resting it under your collarbone. Now, if you jut your chin slightly forward and then rotate your head to the left, and you should already be starting to feel that stretch in your neck. But to intensify it more, you then tip your head back. So you're tipping your head back, and you should feel that all through those front neck muscles and the sternocleidomastoid, which is this muscle here. Now, if you want to intensify this even more, you can pop your other hand on top of your left hand and draw your hands down. So you're basically increasing the length of that area by putting a bit of pressure on both hands, and you'll get an even longer nicer stretch in that neck area. Now this is fantastic for all those front scaly muscles, the sternocleidomastoid muscle, and also to help ease the jaw. We have a lot of tension in our jaw. We often clench and hold tension in our jaw, which can lead to tension headaches. So it's fantastic just doing the whole area. We'll just take it to the opposite side now. So we'll just bring the hand to the opposite collarbone and jut the chin forward, rotate to the right and tilt the head upwards. And for even more resistance, just bring the other hand on top of the other hand and pull down in a nice slow session. Remember to breathe, because I nearly forgot then. So perfect. And again, hold it for 20 to 30 seconds, and you can do it 2 or 3 times just to really ease those muscles. So I'll get Claire now to turn around, because we're going to just do a little bit of neck self massage. So just so you can see her neck, she's just going to turn around on her chair. Great. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to locate the bony processes in the center of the neck. So basically the vertebrae. So we just want to put our fingers on those bony processes, and then bring your fingers either side of those bony processes, and that's where we're going to massage. We're not going to massage on any of the spine or any of the bone. So that's where we're going to massage. And then if you just tilt your head forward slightly, and starting at the top of the neck, I just want you to slowly rake your fingers through all that lovely flesh in the neck. So we're just going to do these raking movements through, and we can go right down into the top of the shoulders. And this is fantastic at releasing all that fascia and all that connective tissue that gets very, very tense. And we can do this for 3 or 4 times, just raking through the neck. And if you find an area that's really particularly sort of sticky or a bit tight, you can just stay on that area and just apply a little bit of pressure. So and you can also do small circular movements just to kind of release that tension spot. And yeah, I can really feel it anyway. I don't know about you guys, but that is doing the job. Okay, and now I'll get Claire to turn round again for me. Sorry, Claire, you are eternally moving. We're going to just move on to a few little bits for the shoulders. So we're going to do a really nice shoulder release. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring our shoulders right up to our ears, squeeze, 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 squeeze. And you're doing this with an inhalation, and then with an exhalation, just let everything drop. Okay, we'll do that a couple more times. So nice inhalation, bring the shoulders up to the ears, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And with an exhalation, drop. And you can do an audible exhalation, just let everything go. Just be loose, be free, do a little dance, you know, we just want to let everything loosen up a bit. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, sorry Claire, I'm going to get you to turn around again, because we're going to just do some shoulder extensions. So, once Claire's turned around, okay, we're going to just clasp the hands behind your back, but like this. And we're just going to push those hands away from the body. Okay. And while you're pushing the hands, make sure that you're basically drawing your shoulder blades down your back, and then push your arms away from the body. So it's kind of like a yin and yang thing. You're pushing your shoulder blades down, but you're drawing your arms out. And that basically, that will do is that will start to open up the pectoralis muscles at the front. Now the pectoralis muscles not often associated with shoulder problems, but basically when we're sitting like this a lot, they get very, very short and tight, and they start to compress and shorten. So by doing that stretch, we're opening up these pectoralis muscles and taking pressure off the back of the shoulders. So it's a really good stretch to just instantly release the shoulders. Okay, great. I hope you can see that, because that's a really, really useful stretch. And now we're just going to take the arms and bring them in front of us. Again, clasping the hands together and push them away from the body. So we're pushing the arms away from the body. And at the same time, we're just going to bend the head forward and again, push the arms as far forward as you can, really. And imagine that you're drawing the shoulder blades away from each other. So you're basically creating space in between the shoulders. And you're drawing those shoulder blades away. And this will really just loosen up those shoulders for you. Fantastic. So hopefully you're feeling a little bit looser. You can do a couple of rolls of the shoulders forwards and backwards just to loosen it up a bit more for you. Okay, so now on to the massage section of the shoulders. Right, so we're going to just work on one side and then we'll swap to the other. But just the side that you're working on, just make sure your arm is nice and loose. We don't want to hold tension and it sort of moves up as we sort of try and work on it. So just make sure everything's nice and loose on that side. And we're just going to do some nice grabbing or squeezing of those upper traps. And we're just going to work that right down over the shoulder joints. And this will just really start to get the blood circulation in the shoulder and the top of the traps. We just really want to warm up the area before we start sort of digging into it. You can do this 2 or 3 times just to make everything feel nice and warm. Then we're going to take 2 fingers and we're just going to, the first 2 fingers, start to do small circular motions through those upper traps. And you can really sort of dig into the areas that feel a bit knotty. So knots are actually redundant muscle fibre. So it's basically muscle fibre that's fatigued, usually through overuse. So what it does, it basically prevents the full flexibility of that muscle and the full elasticity of that muscle. So as therapists, we want to try and break that down. So by doing these little friction moves on these areas, we start to break those redundant fibers down, and it'll just give you more elasticity and flexibility within the muscle. And you can really, really dig in, but obviously just so it doesn't, hurt. It feels deep, but not sort of painful. You don't want to be tensing. So we'll just move on to the other side now. So we'll just start by squeezing that, grabbing that flesh, just getting all the blood flow into the area. Increasing the blood circulation helps to flush through sort of all the sort of toxins, and it helps to increase oxygen into the area, increase oxygen into the blood flow, and just flush through all those nasty toxins that build up in our shoulders. So it's really good to get that nice and warm and all the circulation going again. Okay, and then we'll just take our 2 fingers and we'll just start to do the circular motions in those shoulders. And just be wary, you will feel those knotty tissue which feel hard and like little clumps in the shoulders. That's fine to massage, but just be wary not to massage the bony areas. We just don't massage sort of on the shoulder blade, the bone of the shoulder blade, or on the spine. We just massage the soft tissue. So just be careful just to not go over any of the bone. And there we go. And then we're just going to finish off by rolling our shoulders forward and back, as I can hear mine crunching already. Taking a nice inhalation and bringing the shoulders up to the ears. And release. couple of deep breaths in and out. Perfect. Thank you very much. I know that was a very quick neck and shoulder demo, but as we've said, if you do want to see some more tips and hints on how to do some things for yourself, we do have our Working from Home series, which is all on our YouTube, and we do have a few more little tips for self-massage of the neck and the shoulders and some extra stretches as well. But I hope that as a little lunchtime demo has helped a few of you. Perfect. Thank you, Claire. Hope that was all right.
Thank you. That was fantastic. I definitely felt a few bumps and knots. And can you hear me?
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool. My microphone has a tendency to dislodge when I'm swiveling around. Cool. So let's.
I'm sorry about that.
No. I'll bring Elika back in.
Hello.
Hello, Elika. How was that for you?
Amazing. I could have done another hour of that.
I
know, it's short and sweet.
We carry on.
Yeah. Is there anything that you got confused by? Anything that didn't quite work for you that you'd like us to clarify?
No, actually, I felt that one thing that I didn't do that actually does make a big difference is the breathing. Because when you don't breathe, you're quite tense. All your muscles are really tense. And when I was doing it, and when you start to breathe, they actually relax themselves. So it's like you're not fighting to get through them.
It's so funny how you can forget to breathe, isn't it? It's such a basic thing, but you're just, I suppose, holding your breath is something that we do when we're tense. So when you hold your breath, it's a bit of a vicious cycle, but when you feel tense, you're more inclined to hold your breath, and you're just like stiff as a rock.
That's what I was doing. I was kind of like, and then I kind of like paused on my inhale. It's like, actually, when you exhale, it makes a difference, doesn't it?
It's so easy to forget to breathe.
Yeah.
I constantly have to remind myself to breathe. But it's so important. It just relaxes everything. So I agree.
Absolutely. And they're very simple exercises, but they're so effective. I mean, even now I feel the difference with that tiny little exercise.
It's just taking a few minutes out of your day. I mean, I think, like you said earlier, Elika, you spend so much time on social media. I mean, I'm aware of the irony that we're on social media now, but you spend so much time kind of looking down at your phone or your laptop, and maybe if you just took one of those hours or even a half an hour for a bit of self-care instead, you might find at the end of the day you feel a lot better than if you'd been scrolling through Instagram or whatever the young people do these days.
Are you calling us young people?
We're very young.
It's TikTok malarkey and whatnot.
Oh yeah, true. I don't have a clue about that. So.
I don't even know what it is. People mime things or something. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I know what that is.
Well, guys, I'm aware that we've just gone over an hour. So I think people will probably be, if people have been watching, they'll be finished their lunch. So we'll start to wrap up. Thank you so much, Elika, for coming on and for talking to us. The link that you can see at the bottom is the PayPal link. If anyone has any questions for Elika or would like to order one of her beautiful cakes, and I have to say, I mean, I first met Elika when I went to my friend Gabby's birthday, and she turned up with this creation, this work of art that I thought we shouldn't even cut into because it was so beautiful. And she's also made a gorgeous cake for my parents, which I brought home, I think last Christmas, 2 Christmases ago. And it's very bespoke and personalized. So if you wanted to, you can have a look at Elika's website, and I'm sure she can talk you through what she's able to do at the moment during lockdown and how she could cater for anything that you might need. And of course, the the site for the charity, the HSI, is there. You can see it. So it's www.hsi.org. So you can, if you aren't able to donate today to us via PayPal, you can go on there and find out more about HSI. And of course, we also had Elika speaking about her dad, and the website for the petition that you can sign is also available online. If you just go to Anoosheh Ashoori, you can find out more about that and how you can help. Okay, so Lucinda, Elika, does anyone want anything to be brought up or mentioned before we bow out?
I think that was a great session. Thank you.
Yeah. The dogs
really
didn't make an
interesting.
appearance today, unfortunately.
My dog refused.
Chickpea and Noodle and Soupy.
Yeah, he said, I've had enough. I'm sick of being exploited for my good looks.
I feel the pain. I mean, for the good looks, not so much.
So, he's out.
Well, thank you so much, both of you. That was really, really great. And if anyone hasn't been able to watch today, do feel free to watch back. It will be available on YouTube. Spread the word, spread the love, and stay safe, everyone.
Stay safe, yeah.
We'll be back in 2 weeks' time for our next self-care session. So stay tuned.
Perfect.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.